I really wanted to somehow merge our love for music with our love for the outdoors and a change of scenery every day and finding a way to just wake up in a different environment and see how that would affect the way that we created things.
For 2 or 3 years now, maybe 4, we've done this band together called Paper Lights.
Everything to do with being in a band feels kind of like a rat race. And by the time you actually get to the music part, you're so drained from everything leading up to that point that you're often just second guessing your choice to be an artist to begin with.
It's still raining, but we don't know if the gear's ruined, if everything's gonna work when we plug it back in. And we're like under 2 hours. It's looking like it could stop at any point, but we're not sure.
I feel like the hardest thing to do as a creative, when you find that thing that makes the money, and you know that thing that like you're doing because you're passionate about it, is to find time for the thing that you're passionate about.
We just wanted to do something a little different and record our next record in a bunch of national parks.
And when Dan has a smile on his face and he's about to come up with an idea, actually it is going to be crazy and it's worth listening to for sure.
There will be a certain amount of logistics to handle on the road, and I'm helping with that. My background is also in photography, so doing a fair amount of that.
You know, there's something in the middle of that risk and wanting to try something new that actually entices us.
What's crazy to me is after talking to over 80 different artists, so many of us have the same or similar challenges. I mean, everyone's trying to keep paying the bills and do something they love.
This idea of we're gonna hop in a van or we're gonna go create a record and write music in places like, Yosemite Valley.
I just thought if visiting one place like that was so inspirational, maybe visiting 13 would be the same way. I thought a lot about what we can find in nature and just capture samples and try to start processing those into something that sounds like music.
Dan and Josh both know that I've been trying to write a book about creative lifestyle and things that, we've experienced the past 10 years. So from the beginning, they've both been very encouraging to me and said that I really need to make sure that I have time to work on this book. Yeah, our house is crazy right now.
I think what drives me to create as a magician is I'm obsessed with wonder.
And the story of a piece of art and why it was birthed and being like, this was my personal interaction of why I came to this, final medium and birth this piece of art?
The act of storytelling, the imagination behind it. It's just something that's fun for me, and it's something that I naturally do in my life.
The value of art in the context of now, in the present tense, is having a conversation that can't be had otherwise. When it's meta, when it's art, you know, you can look at it and you can say, oh, I think I know exactly what they're talking about.
I'm trying to function, but I have melodies going on in my life and I'm humming all the time. Everybody around me hates me. And so I just, I have to do it.
I think that life is missing the magic that you had when you were a kid. You know, when you go to Disneyland for the first time, or when it's Christmas morning and you don't know how the presents got there. And, you know, a time in history when we can find out anything at any time, to give people a moment of pause and have them go, hey, maybe I don't have it all figured out.
This is our friend JoJo's guitar. So luckily,
Thanks, JoJo.
he won't be seeing this for a while.
Want to see where it keeps going?
Sounds like bees. Well, we didn't expect to find an abandoned cave to explore, and I'd say that's a 10 out of 10 for the first day. Spits. After all that.
I realized what beauty looked like, and I knew that I had the ability to grab that and show it to someone else. It expresses our emotions. It helps us capture and make sense of life. That's one of probably the most powerful things that I hang on to. The realization that story and thus art is what helps us make sense of life.
Art is finding beauty in the simple, because we didn't evolve to be fascinated by the ordinary.
Look at creativity as like a muscle, I think, you know? The more you like express that creativity, the more you're growing that muscle, and then the more it kind of hits you in the head.
I just think it's really important, and you know, I have an 18-month-old, and since he's come around, it's like, man, I want him to live in a world that has beauty and art and music, and I want him to see his mom making and creating, and I want him to do it, and I want him to be like own it and see how important it is and how beautiful it is.
We're at the Rio Grande River, and Josh is deep in his process of sampling with his iPad and some headphones in the Zoom, and he likes to take a lot of different sounds that he finds from rocks and sticks and just noises around and turn them into samples and stretch them, and he's just doing his thing back there, but we all know that it'll sound good, so we're gonna leave him alone for a minute.
The goal was to, of course, take the sounds that we're getting in the parks and make them musical, make them melodic. So what I've got right now is just this guy, which is wind that was captured from Arches National Park. We just set up a little mobile recorder. And so now all I've done is I've taken what we did in the computer world and put it on the keyboard. So now it's playable. So now what we're left with is wind that's playable.
if we can find that like place in our life that we are just doing something creative, whether it's like, I don't know, I even think like someone that's just like crunches numbers throughout the day can like find a creative way to like solve a problem. It's like, but we want to separate that from a musician or from a photographer. And I just think to come back on the question, like what drives me to keep creating constantly is that makes me feel alive when I'm doing something unique.
I get that question a lot. You know, you do music, you paint, you know, how do you do both? I've had people say, you know, you can't do both forever, and you're gonna have to give up one at some point. And I'm like, what? No, I can't. It's like asking me, which hand do you like better?
The only thing that's remained consistent was that feeling when you finally complete a piece of art, like the rush or whatever that is. I think that's what I really enjoy about creating.
And I feel like I make this thing that is, I make a photo that is like never been made before by anyone else. I don't know, it makes me feel special, and I don't think that's shallow, I just think that's amazing. That I actually can go to the same place that 10,000 other people have been, and I can make something that looks completely different. Whether the scene's the same in Yosemite at like Tunnel View, like my photo looks different than everybody else's.
Hi, I'm stranded and I need to get a car towed from where we're at in Bryce City, Utah. Vans broke down. We just called the German shop and they don't know what's wrong with it really. They told us some parts to get, and we are hundreds of miles from any diesel mechanic. Originally quoted $400 for the tow. This guy told Josh $500.
He went to about 90 miles. Yeah, about $500 maybe. About.
Let's round it up.
Yeah.
Several dropped calls and being transferred at least a dozen times. A tow truck is allegedly on the way, but they're 2 hours away.
2 hours.
We're stuck in the parks.
It doesn't matter who I talk to on a creative level, all the struggles are the same. Everyone struggles with imposter syndrome, feeling like they don't belong, like they're not good enough.
This bittersweet, critical, analytical voice in your head that starts telling you, that's not right, that's not good enough.
And it's difficult. You have to, it asks you to find your own value. And it asks you to find value in the art that you're producing as an artist. And to stand up for that.
Like, there's just nothing else that I've ever been able to do or wanted to do. Like, if I could go get a job, I think I would. Like, if I could just go work at a job and then come home and watch Netflix, like, that would be awesome.
I think about the times when we weren't sure the van was ever going to work again. And I think for all three of us, we honestly just questioned a lot.
Everyone feels like they're not working as hard as everyone else. Everyone feels like they're not as creative as everyone else. Everyone's got to deal with the road. The road is the same whether you're a comic or you're scouting locations for a movie or you're a musician, you know. I think the more we talk about this and the more we share our struggles, the more we're going to find out we're not alone.
Perfect, Josh.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, you ask somebody, you know, what
What inspires you to create something? What inspires you to keep going? What gives you the day-to-day motivation of like making something?
Ideas can come from anywhere at any time. So perhaps ideas can strike, but I feel that inspiration really starts to come through execution.
So I decided to build a shed in my backyard, and that became my little workspace, studio kind of place I always can go, and I know that I'm not interrupting anything else. And I just know that when I go in there, it's time to create.
I find that environments really inspire you to see things a completely just different way than what you normally do.
How could we possibly attempt to create without first being inspired, or without first being willing to take a risk or to do things differently? And I'm just really grateful for the experience.
As unconventional as this process might seem to a lot of people, I'm starting to believe that it's necessary, and that experience just gives us what we need in order to create.